Lonely rancher found a girl crying by the river. Her baby carried his late wife's name. The river's secret. The morning mist clung to the Montana hills like a widow's veil. Eli Patterson stood on his porch, coffee growing cold in his calloused hands, watching the sun paint the distant mountains gold. The steam from his cup mingled with his breath in the crisp October air, creating ghosts that disappeared as quickly as they formed, much like everything else in his life these days. 5 years. It's been 5 years since Mary's laughter filled these rooms. Her garden flourished with wildflowers, and he'd woken up with a purpose. The ranch house, once alive with her presence, now felt like a museum dedicated to better days. Her apron still hung on the kitchen hook. Her reading glasses still rested on the side table, marking her place in a book she'd never finish. "Boss." Jake Morrison's voice cut through his reverie. The foreman stood at the bottom of the porch steps, hat in hand. Eli shook his head. "I believe it would be beneficial for you to examine them." Eli shook his head. "You handle it, Jake. You know what you're doing." Jake shifted uncomfortably. He'd been with the Patterson Ranch for 15 years and had watched Eli transform from a vibrant rancher into this shadow of himself. "Are you planning on riding out today?" The plan remained the same as it always had. Eli's daily rides along Whispering Creek were the only thing that got him out of the house anymore. Mary had loved that creek, said it sang to her. Now it just reminded him of everything he'd lost. After Jake left, Eli finished his coffee and headed to the barn. Duchess, his old paint mare, nickered softly as he approached. She was getting on in years, 17 now, but she was steady and patient, perfect for a man who rode more for escape than purpose. He saddled her slowly, running his hands along her familiar curves. The barn smelled of hay and leather, honest scents that grounded him. Outside, his 100 head of cattle grazed peacefully, tended by Jake and the 2 ranch hands. The operation practically ran itself now. Eli was just a ghost haunting his life. The October afternoon was perfect for riding. The cottonwoods along Whispering Creek had turned golden, their leaves rustling like whispered secrets. Duchess picked her way carefully down the familiar trail, her hooves creating a rhythm that usually soothed Eli's restless mind. But today, something was different. Duchess suddenly stopped about a mile downstream, where the creek widened and an ancient willow dipped its branches into the water. Her ears pricked forward, and she blew softly through her nostrils. "What is it, girl?" Eli murmured, scanning the area. Then he heard a sound so soft it could have been the wind through the leaves. But there was something distinctly human about it. A sob, muffled, desperate, heartbroken. Eli dismounted, dropping Duchess's reins to ground tie her. He moved carefully through the tall grass, following the sound. As he rounded the massive trunk of the willow, he stopped short. A young woman sat huddled against the tree, her knees drawn up, her thin dress soaked from the knees down. She couldn't have been more than 20, with dark hair that hung in tangled curtains around her face. But what made Ellis's breath catch was the bundle in her arms. A baby, wrapped in what looked like an old horse blanket. The woman's shoulders shook with silent sobs, her tears falling onto the baby's peaceful face. Eli stood frozen for a moment, unsure what to do. He'd barely spoken to anyone besides Jake in months. And here was this girl, clearly in distress, on his property. His first instinct was to turn around, to pretend he hadn't seen her. But something in the way she held that baby, protective, desperate, loving, reminded him of Mary. Mary, who never could turn away from someone in need. He cleared his throat softly. The girl's head snapped up, terror flashing in her brown eyes. She scrambled backward, clutching the baby tighter, her back pressed against the willow's rough bark. "Easy now," Eli said, holding up his hands to show he meant no harm. "I'm not going to hurt you. This is my land. My name's Eli Patterson." The girl's lips moved, but no sound came. She was shivering, whether from cold or fear, he couldn't tell. Her dress was little more than a summer frock, completely inadequate for Montana's October chill. The baby, at least, seemed warm enough in its makeshift blanket. "Are you hurt?" Eli asked, keeping his voice low and calm, the way he'd talk to a spooked horse. "Is it your baby?" She nodded, a quick, jerky movement. The baby stirred slightly, but didn't wake. How long have you been out here? Since yesterday, she whispered, her voice hoarse. I walked. I couldn't walk anymore. Eli noticed her shoes, or what was left of them. Canvas sneakers, worn through at the soles, stained with blood where they'd rubbed her feet raw. Where are you trying to go? Anywhere. The word came out broken. Just away. The baby made a small sound, and the girl's attention immediately shifted. She adjusted the blanket, cooing softly. In that moment, Eli saw not a vagrant or a runaway, but a mother. A mother who'd walked until her feet bled, carrying her child, trying to find safety. What's your name? He asked. She hesitated, then Sarah. Sarah Mills. Well, Sarah Mills, you can't stay out here. Temperatures are dropping tonight. The first frost is coming. He gestured toward Duchess. My ranch house is about a mile back. You and the baby need food and warmth. Fear flashed in her eyes again. I can't. I'm not asking for anything, Eli said firmly. My wife, she wouldn't forgive me if I left you out here. There's a guest room. You can rest, get warm, and figure out your next move. No questions asked. Sarah looked at him for a long moment, studying his weathered face. Whatever she saw there must have reassured her, because she struggled to her feet, still clutching the baby. Can you walk? She took one step and winced. Eli could see the blood seeping through her ruined shoes. Here, he moved to Duchess's side. Have you ever ridden a horse? Sarah shook her head. Nothing to it. Duchess here is gentle as a lamb. He helped her up, making sure she was secure with the baby before swinging up behind her. It was awkward, riding double on a western saddle, but Duchess took it in stride. As they rode slowly back toward the ranch, Sarah remained silent except for the occasional sniffle. The baby slept on, peaceful despite the circumstances. Eli found himself wondering what had driven this young mother to walk until she collapsed by his creek. Was she running from? Or who? The ranch house came into view, its white clapboard siding glowing warm in the afternoon sun. Smoke curled from the chimney. Jake must have started a fire in the living room stove, anticipating the cold evening. That's home, Eli said, surprising himself with the word. He hadn't thought of it as home in a long time. It was merely a house in which he happened to sleep. As they approached the barn, Jake emerged, his eyes widening at the sight of Eli riding double with a young woman and baby. Jake, could you take care of Duchess? Eli dismounted first, then carefully helped Sarah down. She swayed on her feet, and he steadied her with a hand on her elbow. Sure thing, boss. Jake's curious gaze lingered on Sarah, but he knew better than to ask questions. Eli led Sarah to the house, noting how she limped with each step. The baby had woken and was beginning to fuss. As they entered through the kitchen door, the warmth hit them like a welcoming embrace. Sit, Eli ordered, pulling out a kitchen chair. Let me look at your feet. I'm fine. You're bleeding through your shoes. Sit. She sat, still holding the baby, who was now crying in earnest. Eli filled a basin with warm water and grabbed the first aid kit Mary had always kept fully stocked. Kneeling, he gently removed Sarah's destroyed shoes. Her feet were a mess, blistered, cut, and swollen. This job is going to sting, he warned before beginning to clean the wounds. Sarah bit her lip, but didn't cry out. The baby's cries grew louder. Is he hungry? Eli asked. Sarah corrected her. And yes, but I don't have. Eli stood, understanding immediately. There's formula in town. I can. No, I can't. I can feed her. I just need privacy. Of course. Let me show you the guest room. He led her down the hallway, past closed doors he hadn't opened in years, to the small guest room Mary had always kept ready. Bathrooms are through there. I'll bring you some clean clothes. They were my wife's, but they should fit well enough. And I'll heat some soup. Sarah sank onto the bed, the baby still crying. Why are you doing this? Eli paused in the doorway. Eli said simply, because it's the right thing to do. And because my Mary would come back and haunt me if I didn't. He closed the door, giving her privacy. In the kitchen, he heated a can of vegetable soup and found some bread that wasn't too stale. His hands moved automatically through the familiar motions, but his mind was spinning. Who was this girl? What had driven her to walk until she collapsed? When he knocked on the guest room door 20 minutes later, the baby had quieted. Sarah opened the door, looking exhausted but calmer. "I brought soup." He presented her with these garments. He handed her a small stack of stacked jeans, a flannel shirt, and thick socks. "They might be a bit big, but they're warm." "Thank you," she whispered, taking them with shaking hands. "What's her name?" Eli found himself asking. "Your baby?" Sarah looked down at the now peaceful infant in her arms. A strange expression crossed her face, sadness mixed with something else. Defiance, maybe? "Mary," she said softly. "Her name is Mary." The soup bowl slipped from Eli's hands, shattering on the hardwood floor. Echoes of the past. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." Sarah immediately bent to help clean up the broken bowl, but Eli held up a hand. "Don't move. You'll cut your feet." His voice sounded strange to his ears. He grabbed a towel and dustpan, mechanically cleaning up the mess while his mind reeled. "Mary." The baby's name was Mary. "Is there something wrong?" Sarah asked tentatively. "If you don't like the name." "No." The word came out harsher than he intended. He softened his tone. "No, it's fine. It's a wonderful name. My wife was named Mary." "Oh." Sarah clutched the baby closer. "I didn't know." "I can. Keep it. Like I said, it's a lovely name." He disposed of the broken pottery and returned with a fresh bowl of soup. "Here, you need to eat." Sarah ate slowly, one-handed, while holding little Mary. Eli busied himself in the kitchen, trying to process the avalanche of emotions the baby's name had triggered. It had to be a coincidence. Mary was a common name. Many people named their daughters Mary. "Mr. Patterson?" Sarah's voice pulled him back. "Eli. Just call me Eli." "Eli. Thank you. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't found us." "How old is she?" he asked, nodding toward the baby. 3 months. Born in July. Was her father present? Sarah's face closed off. "Gone." Eli didn't push. He knew about walls built around pain. "Well, you're safe here. Rest tonight. We can figure out the rest tomorrow." "I can't impose." "You're not imposing. This house has been too quiet for too long anyway." The admission surprised him. "There's plenty of food and hot water for a bath. Whatever you need." Tears welled in Sarah's eyes. People aren't usually this kind. Maybe you've been around the wrong people. After Sarah finished eating, Eli showed her where everything was: towels, extra blankets, and a few basic toiletries Mary had kept for guests. The girl looked overwhelmed by it all. "I'll be in the living room if you need anything," he said. "Jake is my foreman. He lives in the bunkhouse out back, but I'm the only one in the main house." "Your wife? How long?" 5 years. The words still hurt to say. "Cancer." "I'm sorry." Eli nodded and left her to rest. In the living room, he stoked the fire and sank into his old leather chair. The Duchess's saddle blanket was draped over the back, and he absently ran his fingers over the worn fabric. Mary. The baby's name was Mary. He closed his eyes, remembering his wife's face. She'd always wanted children, but hadn't been in God's plan for them. She channeled that maternal love into other outlets. Teaching Sunday school, volunteering at the county orphanage, and taking in every stray animal that crossed their path. The house had been full of life when she was here. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Sarah stood in the doorway, wearing Mary's old clothes. They hung loose on her thin frame, but she looked warmer, more comfortable. She washed her face and pulled her hair back, and Eli could see she was younger than he'd first thought. Maybe 18 or 19. "I'm sorry to bother you, but Mary, the babysitter, won't settle. I think she knows we're somewhere strange. Bring her in here. Sometimes the fire helps." Sarah settled on the couch, gently rocking the fussing infant. Eli watched them in the firelight, noting the practiced way Sarah soothed the child and the tender expression on her face. Whatever her story was, she loved that baby. "You said you walked from yesterday. Where from?" Sarah hesitated. "East. A town called Millerville." Eli knew it. About 30 miles east was a rough mining town that had seen better days. "That's a long way on foot. I didn't have a choice." Her voice was barely above a whisper. "We had to leave. Did someone hurt you?" She didn't answer directly. "My mom died when I was 15. Went into foster care. Some homes were okay. Some weren't." She adjusted Mary's blanket. "The last one, the man there, when I turned 18, he said I could stay if I was nice to him." Ellis's jaw clenched. He could fill in the blanks. "I left. Got a job at the diner in Millerville. Met someone. Thought he was different. She laughed bitterly. He was for a while, until I told him I was pregnant. Then he showed his true colors. He hurt you? Not at first. Just controlled everything. Where I went, who I talked to. After Mary was born, it got worse. 2 nights ago, he came home drunk and she unconsciously touched her left cheek, where Eli now noticed the fading remains of a bruise under the freshly washed skin. I knew if I didn't leave then, I might never get another chance. So you ran. I grabbed what I could carry and started walking. I remembered passing through this area once and how peaceful it looked. I thought maybe I could find work at one of the ranches and start over. She looked down at Mary, who had finally dozed off. Stupid, I know. Who's going to hire a single mother with no references? Not stupid, Eli said firmly. Brave. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the fire. Finally, Sarah spoke again. Can I ask you something? When I said her name, you dropped the bowl. Was it just because of your wife? Eli considered how to answer. My Mary, she volunteered at the county orphanage for years. She volunteered at St. Catherine's, located in Bridgewater. She loved those kids. Sarah went very still. St. Catherine's? You know it? I was there when I was 16. I stayed there for only a few months before they secured another foster placement for me. Her voice was strange, distant. There was a woman who volunteered there. She taught us to knit. She also made cookies every Sunday. She was the only adult who ever treated me as if I mattered. Ellis's heart began to pound. What did she look like? Red hair. Always wore it in a braid. She exuded a laugh that compelled you to join in the fun. She gave me a blue scarf she knitted with little white flowers. I still have it. Sarah was crying now, silent tears rolling down her cheeks. She said if I ever needed anything, to find her. She said her name was Mary Patterson and she lived on a ranch near Whispering Creek. However, after my transfer, I never saw her again. Eli couldn't speak. He stood abruptly and walked to the mantel, where Mary's picture sat in a silver frame. His hand shook as he picked it up and brought it to Sarah. Is this her? Sarah gasped, covering her mouth with her free hand. Oh my God, that's her. That's the Mary who was kind to me. She looked up at Eli with wonder. I named my baby after your wife. Eli had to sit down. The room spun slightly. All these years later, Mary was still taking care of people, still showing them the way. She talked about you, he said hoarsely, not by name. She couldn't, confidentiality rules, but she talked about a girl who was so bright, so determined despite everything she'd been through. She tried to find out where you'd been placed and wanted to keep in touch, but the system, she looked for me for months. It broke her heart when she couldn't find you. They were both crying now, 2 souls connected by a woman who'd been gone for 5 years, but whose love still echoed in the world. She'd be so happy, Eli managed, to know you were okay, that you remembered her. I've thought about her so many times. When things were bad, I'd remember her telling me I was worth something, that I deserve good things. Sarah looked down at baby Mary. I wanted my daughter to have a name that meant love. That meant kindness. Eli wiped his eyes, embarrassed by the tears but unable to stop them. Well, you found her home, and you're welcome here as long as you need. I can't. Yes, you can. Mary would haunt me, for sure, if I turned you away now. He attempted a smile. Besides, this place needs some life in it again. Been too quiet for too long. Sarah clutched the baby tighter. What if he comes looking for us? Then he'll have to go through me. And Jake. And probably half the county folks around here don't take kindly to men who hurt women and children. You don't even know me. I know enough. You're the girl my Mary cared about. You named your daughter after her. You walked 30 miles to keep your baby safe. He met her eyes. That tells me everything I need to know. Little Mary stirred, making small sounds. Sarah adjusted her, and Eli caught a glimpse of the baby's face in the firelight. She had her mother's dark hair, but something about her expression, even in sleep, reminded him painfully of his Mary, that same peaceful certainty that the world was fundamentally good. I can work, Sarah said suddenly. I can cook, clean, and help at the ranch. I'm not looking for charity. We'll figure all that out tomorrow. Tonight, you rest. Sarah nodded, standing carefully. Mr. Patterson, Eli, I don't know how to thank you. No thanks needed. This is what Mary would want. After Sarah went to bed, Eli remained by the fire, staring at his wife's photograph. "You always said God works in mysterious ways," he whispered to the image. "Guess you were right." As usual, for the first time in 5 years, the house didn't feel empty. Somewhere down the hall, a baby named Mary slept peacefully, and her mother, the girl his wife had loved and lost, was safe under his roof. Maybe, just maybe, this was Mary's last gift to him. A reason to care again. A purpose beyond mere existence. He banked the fire and headed to bed, pausing to listen at the guest room door. All was quiet. Tomorrow would bring questions, challenges, and decisions. But tonight, for the first time in years, Eli Patterson fell asleep with something that felt dangerously like hope warming his chest. New beginnings. The smell of coffee and bacon woke Eli the next morning. For a confused moment, he thought he was dreaming Mary always used to wake before him, starting breakfast while he did the morning chores. Then reality crashed back, and he sat up, disoriented. Sarah, the girl, was cooking. He dressed quickly and found her in the kitchen, baby Mary in a makeshift sling fashioned from one of his old shirts. Sarah moved carefully, favoring her injured feet, but she'd managed to start coffee, fry bacon, and was now scrambling eggs. "You should be resting," he said from the doorway. She jumped slightly, then smiled sheepishly. "Sorry, I'm used to being up early, and I wanted to contribute something. Your feet are much better, thanks to you." She plated the eggs and bacon, setting them on the table. "I hope you don't mind. I found everything in the fridge." Eli sat down, bemused. He'd been living on canned soup and sandwiches for so long, he'd forgotten what a real breakfast smelled like. "I don't mind, but you're a guest here. You don't need to. I need to be useful," Sarah interrupted gently. "I can't just take your charity. It doesn't feel right." He understood that. Pride was sometimes all a person had left. "All right, but eat with me at least." They ate in companionable silence, baby Mary dozing in her sling. The morning sun streamed through the kitchen windows, highlighting the dust motes dancing in the air. Eli noticed things he'd been blind to for years. The curtains Mary had sewn needed washing, the floor could use a good scrubbing, and the whole house had the neglected air of a place where only one person lived and didn't much care about appearances. "This is a beautiful house," Sarah said, following his gaze. "It just needs a little attention." Mary kept it nice. "I haven't had the heart to change anything since." "I understand." She shifted the baby gently. "Would you mind if I clean a bit? It helps me think, having my hands busy, if you feel up to it. But don't overdo it. Your feet need to heal." After breakfast, Jake knocked on the kitchen door. His eyes widened at the sight of Sarah doing dishes, but he covered his surprise quickly. "Morning, boss." "Ma'am." He tipped his hat to Sarah. "Wanted to let you know that the heifer finally calved. Healthy bull calf." "Good," Eli said. "Jake, this is Sarah Mills and her daughter. They'll be staying for a while." Jake's weathered face creased in a smile. "Welcome, ma'am. Anything you need, just holler." After Jake left, Sarah turned to Eli. "He seems nice. Salt of the earth. He has been with me for 15 years. He pretty much runs the place these days." "Why?" The question was gentle but direct. Eli shrugged. After Mary's death, Eli's interest faded. "It's easier to let Jake handle things." Sarah didn't push, but her expression was thoughtful. She spent the morning cleaning, moving slowly but steadily through the house. Eli tried to help, but she shooed him away, so he retreated to his study to go through papers he'd been ignoring for months. Around noon, he heard her talking to the baby, her voice soft and musical. He found himself drawn to the sound, pausing outside the living room door to listen. "That's right, sweet girl. Your namesake lived here. She made this house a home. Maybe we can help make it feel that way again. Would you like that?" The baby gurgled in response, and Sarah laughed. A sound like water over stones, natural and free. When was the last time laughter had filled these rooms? Over the next few days, a routine developed. Sarah insisted on cooking and cleaning, despite Eli's protests. She moved through the house like a gentle tide, washing away the dust and neglect without disturbing the essence of what Mary had created. She didn't move things or change things. She simply restored them to what they'd been. Eli found himself looking forward to meals again, to the sound of someone else in the house, and to the baby's cries and coos. He started helping Jake with the ranch work again, coming in to find lunch waiting and Sarah humming while she folded laundry. "You don't have to do all this," he told her one evening as she served pot roast with vegetables from Mary's abandoned garden, which she'd somehow coaxed back to life. "I want to," she said simply. "This place, it feels like home, like the home I always imagined having someday." But the peace was fragile. Sarah still jumped at unexpected sounds and still checked the windows obsessively when trucks passed on the distant road. And one night, Eli woke to the sound of crying. Not the baby, but Sarah. He found her on the porch, wrapped in one of Mary's quilts, sobbing quietly. "Bad dream?" She nodded, wiping her eyes. "I keep thinking he'll find us, that I'll wake up and this will all have been a dream." "What's his name?" "The baby's father?" "Derek Morrison. He works at the mine in Millerville. Has friends everywhere." She shuddered. "He said if I ever left, he'd find me, that I belonged to him." "No one belongs to anyone," Eli said firmly. "And if he shows up here, he'll regret it. You don't know him. He's dangerous. So am I when I need to be." The steel in his voice surprised them both. "This ranch has been a safe place for a long time. Mary made sure of that. I won't let anyone change that now." Sarah looked at him in the moonlight. "Why are you so kind to us?" Eli thought for a moment. "My Mary used to say that love doesn't die. It just looks for new places to take root. Maybe that's what's happening here. Her love for you, finding its way home. I wish I could have told her what she meant to me." "You did. You named your daughter after her. You remembered her kindness and passed it on. That would have meant everything to her." They sat quietly, watching the stars. Baby Mary slept peacefully inside, unaware of the fears that haunted her mother or the grief that had shaped the man who'd taken them in. "I've been thinking," Eli said eventually. "Winter's coming. You'll need warmer clothes and supplies for the baby. We should go to town tomorrow and get you properly equipped." "I don't have any money." "I didn't ask if you had money. I said we need to get you supplied." "Eli, no arguments. Mary would skin me alive if I let you and the baby face a Montana winter without proper gear." Sarah smiled through her tears. "She sounds like she was wonderful." "She was, and she'd have loved you both." The next morning, they drove to town in Eli's old pickup, baby Mary secure between them in a car seat Eli had bought years ago when he and Mary still had hope for children of their own. The town of Cedar Falls was small, but had everything they needed: a general store, a secondhand shop, and a small clinic. People stared as Eli Patterson, the hermit rancher, walked through town with a young woman and baby. But the stares turned friendly when they saw him smile, when they heard him introduce Sarah as a family friend who's staying at the ranch. At the general store, he insisted on buying formula, diapers, baby clothes, and everything else Sarah mentioned needing. At the secondhand shop, they found warm coats, boots, and clothes for Sarah. She protested the expense, but Eli waved her off. "Money's no good sitting in the bank," he said. "Mary always said it should be used to help folks." Dr. Henderson at the clinic checked Sarah's feet and gave her antibiotics for the infection starting in one of the cuts. He cooed over baby Mary, pronouncing her healthy and well cared for. "You take after your mama," he told the baby, then looked at Eli with raised eyebrows. Eli didn't correct his assumption, and Sarah blushed but said nothing. On the drive home, in the truck loaded with supplies, Sarah was quiet. "Thank you," she finally said, "for everything, for not correcting the doctor when he thought. Let people think what they want. Makes things simpler. Won't it hurt your reputation? People think you've taken in a young woman with a baby?" Eli surprised himself by laughing. "Sarah, I haven't cared about my reputation in 5 years. But if I did, I'd be proud to have people think you and Mary were mine to protect." That night, as Sarah cooked dinner with her new supplies and baby Mary played on a blanket by the fire, Eli felt something shift inside him. The house felt alive again. Not the same as when his Mary was here, but alive nonetheless. He pulled out his guitar for the first time in years, tuning it carefully. "Do you play?" Sarah asked, delighted. "Used to. Mary loved music. Will you play something?" He strummed a few chords, fingers remembering old patterns. Soon he was playing Amazing Grace, Mary's favorite hymn. Sarah hummed along, and even baby Mary seemed to listen, her dark eyes fixed on the firelight. For the first time in 5 years, Eli Patterson felt like he was home. But peace, as Eli knew too well, was often just the calm before the storm. And somewhere in Millerville, Derek Morrison was drinking heavily and making plans. The girl thought she could leave him, take his kid, and disappear. He'd find her, and when he did, she'd learn what happened to people who crossed Derek Morrison. The storm was coming, but for tonight, in the warm circle of firelight, with music and laughter filling the air, a makeshift family found comfort in each other. Sarah had found safety, baby Mary had found a home, and Eli had found a reason to live again. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. But tonight, Mary Patterson's legacy of love lived on in the most unexpected way, through a young woman she'd once comforted, a baby who bore her name, and a broken man learning to heal. The guitar sang on, and the fire crackled, and somewhere in heaven, Mary Patterson smiled.